Ghost Stories. You ever heard of Ghost Stories? It's an anime that they made, and today I'm making a video about it at 12 a.m. Why, you ask? Because I can. Even though everyone else has already made a video about it, I'm gonna make my own. Let's just jump right into it. I want to say, first of all, I've been watching anime for the past year or so. I began watching it in 2023, I suppose. I'd seen some stuff here and there, now and then here and there, reference. I saw some stuff now and then here and there, every now and then, here and there, over the years. I'm a very obsessive person, so I used to be very scared that if I watched a ton of anime, I'd get way too into it, I'd become one of those weirdos, weeaboo type people. But thankfully, I'm chill now, a little bit, not much. A little bit more chill now, and I can watch all the anime I want and not have to worry about being a, pedophile or whatever. YouTuber plus anime enjoyer equals I do be enjoying maybe cut that out, actually, don't. So here's the lore, the incredible lore of this anime. Basically, you got Japanese studio and they make animation. They call it anime there. We don't call it that here, we call it cartoons. Cartoons like my shirt. So you get the anime from the Japan, and then they send it over here. And they're like, hey, you could dub the anime. We'll let you put it in English. Make it in English. They Englishify it. And then you get money, you referring to American studio. And then the Japanese studio also gets a portion of that money, so they profit, and it's a win-win for everybody. Everybody wins. Everybody wins with anime. It's kind of cool. It's a pretty fun thing. It allows people to see stuff from other countries and allows them to experience it in their own way. It's pretty cool, in my opinion. Usually, when a Japanese company gives America a TV show, they're like, hey, do it well, or do it good, make it a very good show, make it just as good as the original, or try your very best. Back in the day, that wasn't as much of the case. They kind of were just like, hey, give us some money. But especially nowadays, they're like, make it as similar as you can to the translation, basically. But for this show, as you probably already know, that did not happen exactly the way that happened. Now, the story that people give for this show and why this show was made the way it was is that apparently it bombed in Japan. That's the whole lore. That's the whole myth behind it. It bombed in Japan. It did bad. It did a bad job. And so they gave it to America and were like, please just take it. Do what you want with it. We don't care. Just make us a little bit more money, please. That's all we're asking. And that's partially true, at least in my brain assumptions. That's probably true to some extent, but I have some receipts and proof to show that it didn't really bomb the way people think. It appears that Studio Pierrot, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, is the studio that created Ghost Stories. They also created well-known shows like Bleach, Naruto, and Yu Yu Hakusho. Hey, Penis Monster. And Aniplex, which was involved in Gurren Lagann and Sword Art Online. I've seen one of those. They also helped create the show for Fuji Television in Japan. Then Fuji Television handed the rights over to ADV Films, a division of AD Vision Holdings. And at the time, Stephen Foster was an ADR script writer for ADV Films, which, according to him, his words basically, means that he was one of the people that would take rough translation, although Lucan Duran, I think I'm saying his name right, he was the guy that actually translated it, but he would take that translation, Stephen Foster would take that translation, and then would rewrite it in a way that English people would be like, that sounds normal. That sounds not like a translation as much. He also was, I guess, in charge of making sure that voice actors sounded good and did what they were supposed to do and whatever. So Stephen Foster is ultimately the man to blame for the Ghost Stories dub being the way that it is. Hero. What a hero. At the time, he was already known for changing scripts a lot because he just thought that it would work better. They called it Fosterization. The people in charge of handing over the Western rights for the show, which I'm just assuming are the people involved with Fuji Television, were like, yo, this show performed really bad, and if you could get us some money from it, make it a little more popular, maybe over there, that'd be pretty cool. That's what everyone says. but that's not really what happened exactly. So Ghost Stories was based on a series of Japanese novels. It involves school ghost stories. They involved a lot of Japanese folklore. They were then adapted into a television series in 1994, then into some films from 1995 to 1999, and then into a video game for the Sega Saturn, and that was based on the films as well. And then finally into the Ghost Stories anime that we know and love. So you can already tell, based on all of this, that there was some abundance of a franchise here in terms of what Ghost Stories was. There was some form of, it was popular. Or at least it didn't even have to be popular. There had to be some kind of audience or something behind it in order for all of this stuff to exist before the anime even exists. Which is obviously its own indicator that the series probably wouldn't just flop per se, right? Like people think it did. And it didn't. The ratings for the show, which has been found in Animedia magazine from these tweets that I have receipts for, that I definitely didn't find off of some random article, claim that it did really well. It was doing great. It even surpassed Pokemon and Doraemon in views for some times. These tweets were posted by an account for the unofficial fan site of the show, which was made in 2019, and when looking into the account, you can find retweets of other Japanese accounts expressing their love for the Ghost Stories show, or reminiscing about watching the original show, all in Japanese. I couldn't find any tweets being like, yo, they have an English dub that was pretty wacky as well. I didn't see any, but I also didn't really look very hard, so maybe if you did, you could find something. I didn't. Another thing worth noting is that Ghost Stories aired in other countries besides America, specifically in Southeast Asia, and it was also given proper dubs to all of those places, including even a proper just a proper English dub. So while many people mistakenly believed that the show was just unpopular, and because of that the studio was like, nobody cares about this show, including us, we don't care about this show, so you just do what you want with it. That just doesn't seem to be the case. Ghost Stories was supposedly part of a package deal, which from what I understand means that it was given to ADV Films to dub and distribute and whatnot alongside at least one other show. I believe that it was given to them for free alongside a show that I would probably know if I did a little more research. I think he mentioned it in the video, but either way, that's, I think, what happened. As far as I can tell, this isn't unheard of when it comes to anime being acquired by American studio. At least, it wasn't at the time. 4Kids Entertainment acquired One Piece as part of a package deal, and Fully Cooley was also acquired as a package deal, or part of a package deal. So while Ghost Stories didn't really flop in terms of popularity, there's not a lot of information about how the show performed financially. So, what I believe happened is that they probably put a lot of time and a lot of effort into making the show very good, and it got great ratings, and it did a good job on television, but it didn't sell well, or somewhere along the line they lost money making it, or didn't make the amount of money back that they wanted. So they gave it to America, and to America they were like, yo, we really just want to make even on this. Like, we really just want to break even and make as much money as we can back from this. We put way too much into this, so do what you can to do that. It didn't really help that there was no Ghost Stories media in Japan, and that a lot of the stories revolved around folklore, which were, not something we knew about. They were probably also afraid that if we did it the normal way, that it wouldn't sell very well here because it wouldn't make a lot of sense or something. So they were like, do what you can as long as it sells good, just try and make it sell better. Some people even believe that they gave the rights specifically to Stephen Foster because they knew that he would mess things up and change things around and make it wacky. I don't know if that's true. I wouldn't be too surprised if it was, but I like to imagine that they just gave it to the perfect person for the job, and a masterpiece was born. Some people also believe that Stephen Foster purposefully spread false rumors to the cast and crew, just in order to be known as the guy that saved the horrible anime show. I don't really believe that. I think there was just some misinformation along the way. But I don't know. Maybe he's an evil genius, an evil mastermind, just like me. Either way, the dub was eventually greenlit, wild, and the rest is history. Upon release, it gained a small cult following until around 2014, according to Stephen Foster, when the rest of the internet, like YouTube and Reddit, just unearthed the masterpiece that was Ghost Stories. Ah, what a masterpiece. ADV Films had accumulated numerous voice actors over the years, and several of them became regulars in the dubs that the company produced. In the case of Ghost Stories, they enlisted the talents of Hilary Hagg as Satsuki, Chris Patton as Hajime, Monica Riel as Momoko, Greg Ayers as Leo, Christine Otten as Ketchero, and Rob Mungle as Amano Jaku. I hope I said those names good and didn't pronounce them badly, but I probably did somewhere along the line, so get mad. Contrary to popular belief, the show was not really ad-libbed like everyone says. Instead, it was just written on the fly by Stephen Foster, with the voice actors contributing some jokes every now and then. So, kind of as they were voice acting, I believe, maybe they just were writing the script based on just what they already kind of knew about it. It's also a common misconception that the first voice actor to enter the studio could say whatever they wanted, and everyone else had to follow suit while recording. But based on what we know about Stephen Foster writing the scripts himself, we can tell that that's not really the case either, except maybe the exceptions of a few scenes or something. Another common misconception is that the cast and crew really didn't put effort into making the show, when in reality they worked very, very hard on Ghost Stories. People like to say, oh, they just kind of did whatever and didn't really care about it. No, they put a lot of work into this show. They would write entire scripts and come up with jokes and everything. Monica Rial even recalls coming up with Momoko's lines by carrying around a Bible and citing verses she discovered herself. That is commitment right there. Commitment. Despite all the hard work put in by the crew, I think you can really tell that they had fun making this show, especially as the series continued, getting more offensive and improvisational episode after episode. What I love about Ghost Stories, besides just finding the dub really interesting, is that it feels unique to not only other anime, but other animated adult shows as well. Specifically shows that constantly play into shock humor and offensive jokes. With Ghost Stories, there's this extra layer of comedy and self-awareness to it, given the context of how the show was made in comparison to how other dubs are made. The teams behind the anime dubs are supposed to translate the original show and make it accessible to an English-speaking audience, while still maintaining the integrity of the original show. But with Ghost Stories, they basically turned the English version into its own entity, and instead of maintaining the integrity of the original, they came up with this.
A police station! Thank God! I never thought I'd be happy to see one of those things. Hey, put the donuts down! Drop the Krispy Kreme, Serpent Coat! We need your help here!
Does my house look like my father and my brother after 9 months or
Yeah, boogity-diggity-diggity-diggity-diggity-diggity-diggity!
And the reason that clip is so funny out of context is because it's so different from what dubs are supposed to be, and the fact that it was greenlit and is completely official English version of the show with DVD releases and everything makes it legendary in comparison to the other dubs. The Ghost Stories team was given an opportunity that anime teams never get, and they took full advantage of it, achieving a level of self-awareness and offensiveness with the show that will never happen again. Which leads me into my next part about how it will never happen again. This is the final stretch. We're in the final stretch of the video. Are you doing good? You doing good so far? You paying attention? Do I need to put some Subway Surfers down there? Let's get it! As mentioned earlier, Ghost Stories was released in Japan in 2000, and the dub was released in 2005. This is very obvious to anybody that watches the show because they threw in a lot of dated references, some of which I will put right here.
I'm all alone, forgotten, like a black family in Bush America.
You're such a crybaby, Ketchero. That's why they pick on you. You gotta be like Cameron Diaz in the paparazzi! Bam!
Yeah, genius, but all the rabbits are dead. We should get out our best stationery and our pins and ask Amy Grant for those 3 wishes.
But beyond the outdated cultural jokes, the offensive nature of this dub feels reminiscent to the early 2000s. They really just did allow them to throw around the R word and the F word, and I'm genuinely surprised they never used the N word. I feel like they probably tried to at some point but realized they weren't able to, or it wouldn't fly. But either way, I don't know, ask Stephen Foster about it, he'd know. The cast and crew has explicitly stated that they wanted to be equal opportunity offenders. Again, they didn't say the N-word, so does it count? It does count. They wanted to be equal opportunity offenders. They wanted to call out as many different kinds of people as possible to make sure that no matter who you were, there was a joke in there somewhere that you could feel was directed towards you, whether it be about your race, sexual orientation, religion, etc., etc., etc. And it's kinda awesome. Wow, I like dark humor. I'm a white guy who likes dark humor. Be like, sex. Hearing the jokes out of context can be offensive for sure, but it goes without saying that these jokes, as out of pocket as they were all made in good fun. Having a group of characters so ready to offend and insult everyone, including themselves, is probably as offensive as it gets. Chris Patton, the voice of Hajime, is actually gay. Greg Ayres, the voice of Leo, is gay. Did I research that? I think he is. I looked at him and was like, he's probably gay too, let's put it in there. Stephen Foster himself is not only gay, very homosexual activities, but he also is a born-again Christian. Wouldn't you know it? The cast and crew's actual views and opinions are obviously separate from what the characters promote, and any normal person can see that, like me, kind of a normal person. And it's just kind of funny to hear it come out of anime child's mouth, especially in an official dub of an official anime. It's sick. If something like this came out this year in 2024, there would be so many new and relevant celebrities, movements, and groups of people to poke fun at. But the early 2000s was the perfect time period for this show to come out and do what it did. Except maybe the cultural references that they used, but whatever. If it came out in 2024, let's just say it probably wouldn't be as beloved as it is right now. Facts. The show just happened to check off every box. It happened at the right place at the right time. Stephen Foster and the rest of the cast hardly expected anyone to watch it. They had no clue that it would become as popular as it did. It didn't become popular when it came out, though, so I guess did it really become popular at the right time? Did it really come out at the right time if nobody really watched it at the time? It came out and it was good. Alas, when it did become popular, some interesting, albeit fabricated or downright true rumors and stories about the show were spread around, giving it even more of an interesting backstory. And thus, Ghost Stories became anime's most legendary dub, at least in my eyes. My beautiful, gorgeous eyes. And now I get to the outro. With that, I conclude my Ghost Stories video. If you haven't seen the full show and it's piqued your interest, or even if you've only seen compilations on YouTube or something, I definitely recommend getting some friends together. Alright, I'm gonna redo that whole thing. And with that, I think that the story behind it is very fun and interesting, and that it'll undoubtedly go down in history. And everything that I use for this video can be down in the description below. Woo! And if you want to learn even more about Ghost Stories, check out Stephen Foster's YouTube channel, also linked down below. He also has a book out called The Last Alias, and I'll provide a link to that too down below. Wow, so many links for anyone who may be interested. And if you happen to be able to read and understand Japanese, I'll link the unofficial fan site for the show, and the Twitter account for it as well, in the description below. Ghost Stories is one of my favorites. I watched it a long time ago, like years ago at this point. And it's held up. Not perfectly, but it's definitely held up to some extent. Mostly just the cultural references are bad, if I'm being honest. Everything else is fine. Fine is... It's good, okay? If you don't like offensive stuff, you don't want to watch it, that's whatever, but I think it's great. Me personally, whatever. It's all in good fun. It's all a good time. Don't say the words they say, and you should be fine. Is there anything else interesting I can do before I end this video? I don't think so. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm trying to make very good videos. If you have any feedback, please put it down there. Hoping to upload a lot more. And yeah. Adios gozaimasu. Thank you so much. Bye! Cameo appearance for my picture of PewDiePie.